Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Now, I have just got a new mic, so I'm hoping this sounds crisp. This video is more of a testing for this mic, but also some information has come out about the Tombs of Amascut, and everyone wants me to keep them up to date with it, so I'll do a quick overview. This video is not going to be edited that well because I am a little bit busy right now, but because it's come out, I'd just like to go down and talk about each part. I just want to explain everything that's happened, go over it, explain about ornament kits because they're bloody cool and they look awesome, and then we'll be having fun. Let's get this started. So, Tombs of Amascut changes. In today's update, we're following up with more fixes. Now, we did go over these in the last patch review, but a lot of them are the same, and this is finally the Thursday that I said they would do them on. But there are a few extra changes that are sprinkled in. So, let's go through them all. First, the in-raid timer now ends when the remaining warden reaches 0 instead of after its death animation. What this meant was, on phase 3 of the wardens, much like I said in my last video, the timer for the raid ended after the death animation of phase 3. What that meant was some people were missing the final time by 5 or 6 seconds because it is a long animation, so they've made it so the timer stops before the animation starts. They've also fixed a bug which is kind of interesting. No one knew the stats of the obelisk, but now we do because they fixed a bug where Monster Examine did not work. I don't know these personally yet, but by the time that this video is up, it'll more than likely be on the wiki already because the game is currently down. Also, they fixed an issue where players could get stuck in purgatory. This is really funny to me because a lot of people in my clan have actually been stuck, and it's a laugh. But it is good that they've fixed it. And finally, they fixed an issue where the warden could attack during the transition to phase 3. That meant that after you downed the phase 2 boss, it still got a hit or two in and damaged you. So that is now fixed. Next, we've got the mid-raid loot. Now, in the change last week, they made Ambrosia and Liquid Adrenaline turn into a 1-dose potion and show up less often. What this meant was if you got an Ambrosia drop or a Liquid Adrenaline, you'd get probably 2 potions that are 1 dose each. However, now they've turned them back into 2 doses, but the quantity has not been increased. So, it's more than likely you're only going to get 1 Ambrosia or 1 Adrenaline, etc. But what they have done is reverted some of the Life and Chaos changes. Last week, the Life and Chaos got changed a lot. The Life Bucket is the only one that could contain Ambrosia. So Ambrosia was taken out of both the Chaos and the Power Buckets. The Power one's understandable. However, what they've done now is they've made it so that Ambrosia can appear in Chaos again. It's rare, much like the Adrenaline, but it is possible, meaning hope is not lost. Now, this one kind of came out of nowhere for me because I didn't hear anything about this, but they have done a big change to the Tumeken's shadow, and it's absolutely massive. So you know how T-Bow drops from Chambers of Xeric and it's really good at Cox, and then Scythe drops from Theatre and it's really good at Tob? Well, the staff dropped from ToA and it wasn't that good here. It was good, but not like the best. It wasn't good. But now they want it to be a dominant force inside the raid and out. Outside, it's already there. But what they're doing is they're changing the accuracy and magic strength, its passive effects, from 3 times to 4, which is huge, but only for inside of the raid, which is a really good change, and they've put a lot of thought into this. I'm really excited for this, but rip to anyone who sold the staff because they're going to end up going up in price. Next, on to a few miscellaneous changes. I'm not going to scroll down anymore just in case we get a spoiler for the ornament kits, but they fixed some pathing issues caused by rocks added to Sabac's lair. That one's nice and self-explanatory. Now, a really big one, again, that I wasn't expecting, kind of come out of nowhere, is that the time between waterfall refills on the Path of Krondys has been slightly reduced in all scales. So in solos, if you take water from one of the corners, you have to basically go and do all 3 other corners before it regens. It's probably going to be the same, you will still have to go to each one, but in team sizes like 3 or 4, it's going to make sure that whenever you run back and get there, it will be respawned. So that is a really, really good change. They've added a quick pass option for the various entrances in the tombs. And what this means is you can basically right click certain entrances and exits and quick pass without going through the dialogue options, which is a huge change. Now, I've never seen this myself, neither of Jagex apparently, but there is apparently an issue where boulders in Baba's fight were turning invisible. They've attempted to fix it, but obviously if they can't reproduce it, they can't test it, so might be fixed, might not. Let Jagex know if you see any invisible boulders. Now some really interesting ones. Players are no longer able to farm honey locusts in expert mode. What this means is people that were trying like 450 runs, for example, would not put a death invocation on. They'd die over and over and over and get a stack of loads of honey locusts because it's a stackable food that heals 20 health and 20 prayer. And then they'd go and attempt the raid with all that stackable food. So you can no longer do that in Expert Plus. You still can stack if you're learning or if you want to just use it. below expert, so anywhere below 300 invocation level. And they've also fixed an issue where Kefri and Barbar's defense could not be reduced. Now this one confuses me a little bit because I thought this was intentional. I thought it was purposeful that when you BGS spec them a monster examine, the defense doesn't go down. Honestly, this one surprises me that it's worded as if it's a mistake. So that's that. And now on to the juicy stuff. First things first with the ornament kits, look how nice they look. Like, even the Fang looks amazing in that upgrade, but the one that excites me the most is the Avers. Like, how cool is that? It looks so good, honestly. So, we knew these ornament kits were coming. This is not new information. However, they are very interesting. There are 3 ornament kits introduced into the game right now. The Fang, the Avers Assembler, and the Eladinus Ward. But how do you get them, you might ask? Well, 3 new ornament kits have been added to the Tombs of Amascut. You'll be guaranteed, bear that in mind, it is 100% chance, the following items when you complete the raid with no deaths from anyone in your team at or above a certain raid level. So what this means is if an item's got a 300 raid level on it and you solo and don't die, you will get the loot, you will get the ornament kit. However, if you're in a team of 4 and 1 person dies, you will not. So let's take a look at each. First, the Assembler. The Avers Assembler ornament kit will be unlocked when you complete the raid with 350 raid level or higher. Now this is the lowest on here, and that is not easy. 350 raid level at the minute is for the best of the best. So these are not easy to get, but if you can afford Missouri, you can probably do it. Next is the Ward of Eladinus ornament kit. Now this is a 425 raid level or higher. It looks absolutely amazing, but 425 is crazy. And then there's the Fang. Now this is 350. This is 425. That's a 75 difference. So what's the Fang at? Oh crap, the Fang is at 500 raid level or higher. Literally, nobody's done this in the game yet because the person that did a 500 run actually didn't meet the time, so this wouldn't have counted for the drop. I still count that run as a 500 run, but the game wouldn't have, so it would not have got this. That is crazy. It is worth noting though, if you do complete a 500 raid with no deaths, you will get all 3 ornament kits from the looks of it, so go wild. And now, here we go. It's the dust of the raid. Tumeken's Guardian Transmogs, what everyone loves. If you've got a pet already, lucky you. That's all I'm going to say. There are 8 Transmogs in total. The 2 that are already on it, 2 modelled after the destroyed Wardens, and 4 more, which is 1 for each boss. And again, just like with the ornament kits, they have conditions. First, you must be at or above a 450 raid level. No deaths can occur, so it's the exact same as the other ones. But you must have all the invocations on for the boss you want to get the morph for. Now this is really interesting, because you're going to have to complete a 450 raid level and have every invocation on. Like, fair enough, Barber, all of them are pretty much easy, right? Zabak, all of them are easy, so those 2 are going to be the most common. But if you want to do Akkha, that's going to be hell. To have all of those invocations on in a team is going to be absolutely hell, honestly. And Kefri's okay, it just extends the fight when you put the medics on. So, honestly, I think Akkha's going to be the least common one of these, and you have to have not obtained the item used on the morph. Another huge thing, like I'm speaking huge, is do you remember Walk the Path? It's never been worth it. But after today's changes to path leveling, which we'll go over soon, you must also complete the boss at level 4 or higher. So, if you want Akkha, not only are you going to have to put all of its invocations on and struggle, you're going to have to make it level 4 so its mechanics and stats get buffed even harder. If you see anyone with this transmog on this pet, just give them props, honestly. Now, here comes the more important stuff for the casual raider. Obviously the stuff above are for the people that are heading up experts wanting ornament kits, but this is for the more casual people. Now, we have had some minor tweaks to the invocation system. These are not huge, but it's just a few rebalancing. As you've probably heard me say before, Walk the Path, Pathfinder, Pathmaster, none of these are worth anything in the raid. There's no point in putting any of them on, right? Because they just make it too hard for how much you get back. But they have modified these now. Walk the Path, Pathfinder and Pathmaster all have had their raid level increased by 15, 15 and 10 respectively. So if you have Walk the Path on now, it's got a plus 60 raid modifier, which is above Insanity. That's how hard this is meant to make it. It is above Insanity after balancing. They've also changed more overloads to plus 15, which I agree with completely because it's one of those that makes it a bit more annoying and I choose not to have on if I can. Arterial Spray's been given plus 10, which again is understandable. The Blood Barrage does a lot of damage. On a diet has been knocked down a peg, and that's because everyone's using brews anyway and no one's using the food. So it's understandable. In the similar way, likely lava is completely free. All it does is makes it so instead of having 2 of Kefri's minions, it spawns 4 in the eggs. Basically it, so making that a +5 is totally understandable, especially with the 5 points getting added on here. Now, interestingly enough, which I didn't expect, 3 of the wardens have been reduced. Acceleration overclocked and overclocked too. Now these 2 here actually affect the last phase, so it really intrigued me when they lowered this. But thinking about it, the last phase's floor mechanic, when you learn it, is probably one of the easiest things to dodge in the entire raid. So this is understandable. And finally, blood thinners has been put to +5. Now, as I've said here, these balancing changes are not intended to make it unreasonably difficult. We're proud that it's our most accessible raid yet. To be honest, some of the tweaks here might even make it easier with how Walk the Path and stuff work now, but I think it's very well balanced. Props to Jagex. Like they said, some small tweaks here and there are critical to preserve the longevity and enjoyability of our content, which is entirely true. On to some extra changes. These are important, and this is the final part of the video. The small blood clouds that appear with blood thinners now have slightly higher health. Before, if they spawned at the left, you could just run to the right, and then by the time they got to you, they were dead, and vice versa. But now, they have more health, so you do have to run around and dodge them a little bit. But it shouldn't be too bad, especially with them lowering it from 10 to 5. We're going to leave the path ones for now, and we'll do those at the end. They also increase the speed at which the boulders come out when boulder dash invocation is activated. And again, totally understandable. You put boulder dash on, you can barely even tell a difference. And in the other changes, players will now be prompted to claim their XP lamp from Misa if they haven't yet done so. Which is really interesting because I have not yet done so, I completely forgot. And the HP orbs during the Warden's fight are now at the correct height. That's just a visual thing, I'm pretty sure. So it should just look a little bit cleaner. Now on to the path parts. This is the most important thing about this. Originally, I was going to make a complete guide to all invocations on Saturday, and I was going to preface this with a Friday video, the complete guide to path invocations. I think I'm still going to do that, although the time frame might be a little delayed, but for now we'll briefly go over some of the path stuff. Now, with the path leveling, before, you could get levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by having all the invocations on. There's an invocation that makes them all 1, all 2, all 3, and then Walk the Path progressively levels them up, so the final room you do could be level 6. However, before, the mechanics of the fight only leveled up at 1 and 2. So if you hit a level 1 on a room, it'd do an extra mechanic, level 2 it'd do an extra mechanic, and then at 3, 4, 5, and 6, all that would happen is their stats would get buffed further. Now, they've balanced it out. So the mechanic at 1 is now done at level 2, and the mechanic at 2 is now done at level 4. As I said, I'm going through this in detail in my video whenever it comes out, however, I'll briefly do it now. So for example, Akkha. On Akkha, he has the memory game in the middle, right, where you have to memorize 4 icons and stand on each quadrant. However, before, at level 1, he would do 5 instead, and at level 2, he would do 6. Now, at level 2, he does 5, and at level 4, he does 6. That means that at level 3, he also only does 5, and at level 1, he also only does 4. Meaning that the first path invocation might now be fairly free because it's just a stat buff. Now, speaking of the stats, they've altered the amount of stats added from path leveling. Before, these are percentages by the way, it was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60%. This buff was only to their hit points and damage, not their defense, bear that in mind. So it's not like raid level. However, it does stack with raid level, so you've got to be very careful. But now what they've done is they've made it 8, 13, 18, 23, 28 and 33. So it starts at 8 and then just 5 gets added for every level. That means that if a room is now level 3, it's actually 12% easier than before. If a room's at level 6, it's 27% easier than before. So overall, this is a hugely beneficial change because these path invocations did too much. They add mechanics and they add stats. Now the stats have been nerfed and the mechanics have got slightly nerfed, so now the path invocations might be worth putting on. They were that unbalanced and that not worth it to use that they've also increased all of the invocation levels for them, remember? So bear that in mind. You can literally get to 150 invocation level now for a normal run just by putting all 3 of these on, which is absolutely insane. And finally, on Kefri, one of the path mechanics that leveled up for this was that the Arcane Scarab charged faster. People were finding that a little bit difficult as the health got buffed, so it was harder to stop it using it, so they have entirely removed that mechanic, which is really cool. Kefri does have a few other changes that happen, but that's the one that got most people killed, so I'm glad to see it gone. And now, as I was recording this video, something came up. Mod Goblin posted in a Discord server about something that wasn't on the blog post, so I'd like to go over that now. Now, as we know, on the final Wardens phase you can get Zabak and Barbar, or you can get Akkha and Kefri. Now, this is a really interesting change, but now if you have the Stay Vigilant Invocation one, which is the one where Akkha can randomly swap attack styles, that is now applied to the final Wardens fight. That means that during the Wardens fight, instead of being 3 range hits, 3 mage hits, 3 range hits, 3 mage hits, now it's completely random. However, the problem with Akkha is you have to pre-pray. You've got to pray before the projectile's fired or you will take a lot of damage. So there is still a tell. After 3 range attacks currently, like before this patch, it'll do a stance change, and when it does that stance change, that's when you'll swap prayer. So now I assume it's just going to do the stance change more often. I am a little bit confused about this one, because that means that if you have Stay Vigilant and Aerial Assault on, both Akkha and Kefri are going to be buffed, and they're both on the final boss fight at the end on the same one. And that means that Zabak and Barbar is just going to be the go-to for everyone running those invocations. So, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if they're going to buff Zabak and Barbar in the future or what, but I just thought I'd bring this one up. And that's it for this video. This week's Raids 3 update has actually been really cool. There's less information than last time, they've changed less, they've reverted less, which is really good to see as well, and they've made a lot of balancing changes, all for the better health of the raid. Now, as I said, I am going to try and get an invocation guide out soon, maybe a path one first, because there's a lot to go over for the paths, and at some point today or tomorrow I'll be uploading a Barrows run for fun. And let's just say I screw up a lot. Hope to see you there, love you and leave you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!